My name's Alan Smythe. I'm the president of the TOOWOOMBA Tennis-Association.
Yeah, there was a lot of action happening out behind me. The Anderson's car park was where one of the vehicles was washed out of, the one that went down through Harry's Bridge. It's just across the road. This crossing here had something like 4 foot of water across, trucks stuck in it, cars stuck in it, cement slabs coming out of the creek, lying on the road. So it was probably the first major interruption to the city traffic and that sort of stuff. So it was a pretty big thing. And of course, further down from Anderson's was where the water was coming down across Prescott Street and through the buildings. So all the water was just feeding into the creek above here, and then it started to do the damage to the city down. The creek damage was done here, from here on down through the city.
So I came down, and sure enough, the waters had come down the creek, and there was still water lying on our courts. The fences had all gone, and as I entered into the clubhouse, that's when we noticed the damage in the clubhouse. So it was a bit of a disaster zone. Filled up outside to about 5 feet, and then once the pressure built up out here and it was held up by our fence, these doors were just taken out, the whole lot just washed inside, and then it just started to swirl through, and it took out that door, took out the doors inside, went through into the pro shop, and that's where it started to swirl. It really totaled everything. This way it went down into our museum, and we lost about 20% of the stuff in the museum. This area was pretty bad. It was the water had just rushed in through these doors. We used to have the counter going this way, and it basically picked up the counter and smashed it against that wall. Our fridges used to sit on that wall, and it had picked them up and just swirled them around in the room here. The coffee machine that sits outside this room was sitting in the middle of this room. It had picked it up and taken it into here. The water was about the counter height, so it was about this high through here, and it had been through and taken that through there. And the rackets that we had hanging up and display, some of those were damaged. But all in all, it was a disaster site. Pretty bad. Our air conditioning was hanging on the wall where the fridges had hit it, so yeah, the water came across those and bubbled the courts, and we basically had to replace them. Probably the most damage were the back courts, 7, 8 and 9. Once the water built to a certain point and the water had gone down in the creek somewhat, the fences give way, and it let the water off the courts and let the water out of the centre. So the water we had maybe was here less than an hour. The insurance covered a lot of the court costs repairs, but not all of them, and it also covered a lot of the damage through the clubhouse. We were fortunate enough also that Tennis Queensland went to the state government, and between them put a flood recovery deal together for tennis. So the money that was being put up by the state government was handled by Tennis Queensland and handed out to those clubs that required it. Sorry. I've been president here for about 18 years, and we've been through a fair bit with the club. This was pretty devastating, and it affected the club members. But what it did do, it brought the club members together. As I say, overall we probably had 50 or 60 of the club members who were involved in the clean-up, involved in the repairs that went on further and further down the track. And it was great to see that spirit come through. And as just people walking off the street offering help, and it was inspiring at the time. After we got over the devastation, and at the end of the day, I suppose we now look at the positives on it. We actually have done a $350,000 refurbishment to our club, which we would never have done otherwise. But at the end of the day, it was pretty tough. Yeah. But as traumatic as it was at the time, I mean, to walk in here and just see, it was like a demolition site. But to then see it 3 days later after it's been cleaned out and the club members had got in, and just the change and the people that just got involved, which some I expected and some I didn't. But you know, we decided that we're going to clean these courts, get all the mud off them after it had dried out, which was basically brooms, shovels and wheelbarrows. I put the word out amongst half a dozen people, and over the 3 nights we used to clean it, we had about 50 different people turn up. So the word spread, and people just turn up. We worked from 7 till 11 on the nights, during the night, because it was through the summer, so the coolest time was at night. But the fellowship and the camaraderie, and everyone just got in and helped. It's good.